Good morning from my side of the world to yours. Today, we're going to explore the conversation of how to actually live and build a life that is fulfilling to you. What does a life look like that truly brings you that happiness, that satisfaction, that peace that maybe you've been looking for your whole life? Maybe you've tried many paths, and maybe you've experienced hints of it. But oftentimes we can find ourselves in that place and it's unsustainable or it doesn't last. I think where we're going to start this conversation is looking at the self. So there's a couple different perspectives that we can have from looking at the true self versus the conditioned self. Most of us are living from the conditioned self, whether unknowingly or knowingly, whether we're conscious of it and aware of it or not. So the conditioned self is a version of ourselves that we have become through the pain, through the trauma, sometimes through our generational trauma that goes back before we were even born. The lessons that our family line carries, for better or for worse. And in this day and age, we're being welcomed to really look at that, to really understand the way that we show up in the world. And is that truly who you are? Is that truly who you want to be in this world? Does it truly bring you happiness? Or does it give you a sense of such as instantaneous gratification in certain moments? There's too many people who go home and find themselves in a cave of dissociation or guilt or shame for who they are or who they've been or for the life that they've created. And as a person who is currently in a very deep transitional point in my life of reassessing the direction that I want to take, the person who I am committing to be, it makes it a lot easier when you have a toolbox of perspectives, of meditations or practices that assist you through that journey of transition. Because there's always a new version of ourselves that can be birthed. And there is always a journey that comes with that. It doesn't happen instantaneously and we are someone new. We have to dissolve that conditioned self and unveil the true self that has been there all along. Personally, I believe that it lives in our core. It's that voice that if you've ever read The Alchemist, it's that voice that's always trying to come in and guide the boy on his journey. And he has the choice to listen to that voice or not. And eventually that voice is going to stop speaking up. And even if the voice stops, usually we still experience all these feelings of not being on the right path, of not living to our true potential. And living to our true potential does not mean living for achievement or whatever success. Living to our potential is blossoming into the beauty of who you came here to be and who you are at your core. So there's a whole journey of dissolving that conditioning, that conditioned self, bringing a lot of it to the conscious layer, because we also have like the conscious self and the unconscious self, or that could align with the subconscious, kind of what's running on the program of our brain that we are not conscious of day to day. We have to go on that journey of bringing whatever's underneath to the surface so that we can create change. So in order to live a happy and fulfilling life, you have to know who you are. Because if you know yourself to be the version of your conditioned self, and that's who you've accepted, you're creating a life that's not truly inherently natural and aligned with who you truly are, because there's all these layers of conditioning on top of your true self. You have to go on that journey of re-becoming, rebirthing yourself into the world. You have to know yourself. And through this journey of re-becoming, you learn how to trust yourself again. You have to learn how to trust yourself again. And that can be really difficult for some of us, myself included. I've spent years learning how to trust myself again. And now that I'm in this deep transitional period of my life where there's a lot of unknowns, I can honestly say that I am at peace and I am happy and I feel fulfilled even in the moments that all those emotions, feelings, thoughts come up, trying to tell me who I am from the old stories, or how can I put that better? Basically, all the old conditioning, the conditioned programs, perspectives, way that we were taught to see the world that aren't necessarily true, but they were most likely created in a way to keep us quote unquote safe in this world of possibilities. There's a lot of unknown, and a lot of our generational lines were taught to fear that unknown and to control in any way they can. And that plays out differently for all of us. And again, that's where we have to self-reflect. That's where we have to get to know ourselves. Why am I thinking this about this story? Why is this the thought that I have about myself in this situation? And we have to sit with those things, not to necessarily figure out exactly where it came from, because oftentimes we can't find that root. Many times it could come from generations before us. But it comes down to, is that actually true for you? Is that actually true for you? If you, let's say, I'm watching this show right now, and there's football in it. I don't really like football and sports, but there's a character in the show who got an injury, and he was a star athlete. He could have gone to college, probably wherever he wanted, to play and get a scholarship. And he had an accident where he couldn't play anymore. This is also, side note, why I love watching TV and movies and just stories in general, because we can learn and we can reflect on life in general and even on ourselves through other people's stories. That's why connection and relationship is so important, because we need people in our lives to kind of mirror these experiences back and forth and gain a greater perspective. I have another thought on that too, though, that if you're surrounded by the wrong people, they don't invite that energy. Oftentimes they can get stuck to the old conditioned stories. So for example, let's go back to that football player. So if he, and he did in the show have a very hard time with this, if he is stuck on, I'm a failure, I have no future, this is the end because that was it for me. Well, it seems like the universe has a greater plan for you, because sometimes things happen and they are out of our control. And at that point, we have to learn how to let go, let God, whatever perspective that you want to have on that. You have to learn how to let go and let almost the energetics of the reality around you play out. And all you can tune into is who you are, knowing who you are, trusting yourself to show up as that, and things figure themselves out. You start making different decisions that are aligned actually with your true self and not with your conditioned self. So if this boy is stuck on him not having a future, that's the reality he's going to create. The stories and the version of ourselves who we accept ourselves to be is what will manifest and be created in our experience. And that's where that self-reflection comes. And he, in the story, goes through it in his own journey. You know, there's like love with a certain girl that he can't be with. And, You really get to see his character develop through that. And I believe that life does that in general. Life is encouraging us to become better versions of ourselves. Life is encouraging us to look at ourselves and to understand who we are. But not everybody looks. A lot of people hit the snooze button when the universe is screaming at us to wake up. And that's also okay. We're all on our own journey, and that's why we have to focus on ours. A lot of people can also get caught up on the people around them, kind of as that control pattern I was talking about earlier. But the only thing we can control is ourselves and the way that we see the world. So that boy, now where I am at in the show, even though he hasn't been necessarily doing the self-reflection work that I'm talking about, I do this in a very conscious way. The work that I offer is in a very conscious reflection sort of way. Whereas life also just happens, and you can use all these tools and stuff to support yourself through life just encouraging you to become that better version of yourself. So now he's starting to see things differently. He's starting to see that he can coach. He's starting to see that he's actually really good at it. That, yeah, there are actually some challenges and it's not perfect and it doesn't feel like when he used to play. So he's going through this whole emotional turmoil, but he's going through it. He's not at home in his bed, doom scrolling like many of us have done, myself included. He's facing the world around him, even when he doesn't want to. And there was a portion in the beginning of the show where he really wasn't. But because of that, he ended up hurting a lot of people. He ended up making decisions that were aligned with that failure version of himself. And therefore, he hurt a lot of the people he cares about. And a lot of us do that too. So when we can come back home and unveil our true self, there's more accountability that we have. There's more self-responsibility that we have to our life experience. And that changes everything. When you go from this victim mentality of, I can't believe life handed me this and my life feels over and I don't know where to go from here. I mean, I've been stuck in that sort of story myself. And it can be extremely difficult to get out of, especially when you're surrounded by other people who are stuck in that mentality and they're constantly mirroring that. That's why we have to take a step back from everything and learn how to really look within. And learn how to perspective shift or reality shift or identity shift so that we can start to see things in a new way, we can approach things in a new way, and therefore we can actually create things that are aligned with ourselves. And just simply going on that journey, of course there's going to be those highs and lows, those ups and downs, challenges that we couldn't even envision before. But that's what makes life fulfilling. That's what offers you a happy life, is when you live in alignment with who you are. And you show up to experience whatever life has for you as who you are. Not who you were conditioned to be, not who you were expected to be. Who you truly are. Again, even with the challenges and the ups and downs and the craziness of life, when you show up from who you truly are, that's when you live a life that's fulfilling to you. When you learn how to structure your life in a way that supports who you are, not who you were told to be, and you give yourself the freedom to flow authentically from your true essence, that's when everything changes. And I do believe that this is how we change the world at large. You have to start with yourself so that you can unveil your natural gifts and talents. Because then you get to give the world that. And that's what makes this world a better place. Instead of us all filing into where we were told we were supposed to be, we step out of that matrix and we step into life as our true self to offer the world our own magic. If you are interested in staying connected, I would love for you to subscribe, leave any comments, any questions that you have. I'm always open to chatting more about anything that maybe wasn't clear or something that you'd just like me to dig deeper on. I love having these conversations and offering these spaces for people to really just sit and to be in the moment. I really believe that's where some of the most beautiful healing happens. So, other than that, I am also starting an email list as I am building my own creations and offerings. So, if you're interested, go ahead and sign up for that. I'll probably drop that down in the description bar. Other than that, I hope you have a beautiful day, a beautiful night, wherever you are. Take a moment for yourself. Let yourself breathe. Maybe go stand near some trees or in nature. Spend a moment with yourself today and just observe how you feel, where you're at. Maybe you don't like it, maybe you do. Everything's an observation, and that's where it all begins. I love you so much. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Take care.